When I was diagnosed 35 years ago, my disease, Crohn's disease, was very unknown. And there was
Mhm.
so little information, and there was so much of, I don't know. We don't know what causes this. We don't know. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and I'd go to the library. There was no internet. So I'd go to the library
Mhm.
and look up things, and I'd talk to other doctors and other people that really had absolutely just as much information as I had. It was just very unknown. And I think that was part of the success that I had, is because I didn't start with anything. They didn't tell me, oh, you had this medication that you can just take care of things, or it'll fix everything. I didn't have that luxury of doing that, so I had to start figuring out what my symptoms were and how I could reduce those, and so that was part of the responsibility.
And also, you call it the hawk's eye perspective, right? So, how can someone begin to recognize the habits that might be fueling their disease?
I think the most important that's really underrated, and we can talk about all kinds of things, but I think rest and sleep. And I think you have to give yourself permission to really rest in this life, in our world today. Productivity is very out there. It's very, in my case, in my opinion, overrated. But give yourself permission to rest.
And also, you mentioned about the importance of listening to the body, right? So, what are some signs people often ignore that their body is crying out for help?
Oh, some things can be so simple, and some things are a little bit harder, I think. The first number one thing is,
So, folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording. And we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak. And here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host, Navin Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. So, folks, we are excited to have Rebecca Renck as a guest today. She is a holistic healing advocate, coach, and author who has battled Crohn's disease and breast cancer over the past 35 years. And refusing to be defined by illness, she embraced a self empowered lifestyle rooted in listening to the body, reducing toxins, and healing through habits. Today, she inspires others to awaken their body's innate healing potential and reclaim their well being. So, Rebecca, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series. How are you doing today?
I am excellent. It's a beautiful day, and this is very fun. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Pleasure to have you. And first things first, why should somebody tune into our conversation today and spend their valuable time?
Oh, first of all, I appreciate them spending their valuable time. That is for sure. And I know we're all busy. But first and foremost, I want people to realize that when you're faced with a chronic disease or a chronic diagnosis, that it's not a death sentence. And so often that's our first initial response. And then everything we do past that is trying to get over that. And I want people to know that diseases are better managed by lifestyle than they are with standard medical protocol. They can't be cured for the most part. So really need to learn how to manage your disease, and that it can be controlled by your lifestyle. And guess what? You have control over your lifestyle. So I like to say that you can decide how sick you want to be. And that's kind of the premise of my book. I just published a book called Healing Habits, and it
Mm-hmm.
shows about 20 principles and over 100 tips and ideas to implement, and how
Okay.
to change your lifestyle to promote your healing. So that's where I'm at today. We all, as humans, we live by lifestyle. We live by habits. And so we
Yeah.
just need to make those habits be able to help us rather than hurt us. So,
Yeah. Got it. So, folks, how to manage your diseases through lifestyle but not meditation. So, you decide how sick you want to be Rebecca Renck's radical healing philosophy. So before we get into this exciting topic, here is an exciting twist as always. So let us tickle our guest's brain first. So Rebecca, get ready for a rapid fire round of random words. I'll mention a few and I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind in response without thinking much. If you're ready,
Okay,
let's dive right in.
you got it.
I love the
Okay.
energy.
Hello, I'm Steve Ahern, one of the judges of the Asia Podcast Awards. I'm interrupting this episode to let you know that you're listening to an award-winning podcast. This podcast won its category in the 2024 Podcast Awards, so you know you're listening to quality. Enjoy your listening experience, and congratulations to the team who created this award-winning podcast for you.
All right, here comes my first word, curiosity.
Life force.
Invention.
Invention. Dreams.
Future.
Uh, Expansion.
Universe.
Love.
Leadership.
Leadership. Responsibility.
Success.
Success. Finding you.
Health.
Health. Balance.
Money.
Oh, money. Gifts.
Aliens.
Aliens. uh, Community. Let's put that's the first thing that came to my
Community.
mind is
Wow.
community. So wow, interesting.
Interesting. And here comes the last word, life.
Life creation.
Superb. I loved all your responses. Spot on. And thank you so much for participating in the first rapid fire round so sportively. There is one more rapid fire round toward the end of the episode. And also thank you for being part of our journey. So, Rebecca, let's get started with the mainstream questions. And my first standard question to you is, who is your guiding voice?
My guiding voice. I think it's myself, my intuition. I think that comes from obviously a bigger picture, but it's my intuition, my soul. And secondly, I like to think that I listen to others. I like
Mhm.
to hear others, you know, I listen and I'm kind of responding to others' pain, other sacrifices, others' problems that they have. And if there's a way that I can help that, then that's how I that's how I proceed with what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Got, got it. And now talk to us about your success mantra, as in top three things that have contributed to your success so far.
Oh, I think listening first and foremost. You
Mm-hmm.
have to listen. You have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your body, and um, actually hear it. I think there's an aspect of listening that we actually need to hear, and when you hear your intuition and hear that intuitive um, thoughts that are coming down to you, you really need to start acting on those thoughts. And I believe when you
Mm-hmm.
start acting on the thoughts, I think you have to be open to trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you hear things that you're not used to hearing, and you're not used to. If you have pain in your body, or you kind of an intuitive thought say, I shouldn't be eating that, or I should be sleeping more, or this person's just driving me crazy. We need to learn to act on those thoughts. And so that's one of the pieces that I think that led to getting me to where I was. And then also, I think the last one is not being afraid to be different.
Mm-hmm.
We I think our sameness has gotten us to a place of reliance on somebody else knows better, and I think we need to take that back. We need to take that autonomy back and that agency back and say, "I can be different. I can
Yeah.
do what I need to do for me." So,
Yeah.
I think those are the 3 things that really led me to being able to do the things that I did and manage what I needed to do, mostly for me, it's
Excellent.
you have to think of you first. So
Mm-hmm. Great. So one thing on date to be different, right? Recently, last week, I attended a conference in Bengaluru, and one of the speakers, right, he came in shorts and a round neck T-shirt, right, and he was addressing the audience of 1500 plus and all, and rest all the speakers were finely dressed up in suits, blazers, and all, and he was by himself, and I really was surprised to see somebody who dared to be different. So yeah, I think that is important as well. All right, so
It is,
moving
becomes an
forward,
identity.
exactly. I think I'm going to remember him forever.
Yes,
All
there you go.
right, yeah. So you decide how sick you want to be, right? That's a bold statement. So what inspired you on this belief, and how has it shaped your own healing journey?
Yeah, you don't catch a disease. I think I've come to, acknowledge that fact that and listening to people, and it's taken me years and years, but you don't catch a disease. You develop it over time. And when you start replaying back, into what that really means. That means that when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40, those things that you do every day, they're either helping you, to create healthy cells and have your body stay healthy, or they're hurting you. And I think that that's one of the things that really was uh, an aha moment. I was like, you know what? I've made myself sick. Or, unknowingly, very unknowingly. Most of us, we don't do that on purpose by any means. We don't try to go out and hurt ourselves by any means. But unknowingly, we've hurt ourselves. And when we can take ownership of that, we can always understand that we can undo what's been done. And the body is, I honestly believe the body always wants to be healthy. The It doesn't intend to be sick. I think it's a living thing, and it tries to be healthy. And so if we can support that health, and we can support it needing the right nutrition, detoxifying, the poisons that we were putting into our body, the emotions that we're flooding it with, that emotions are part of our body. And when we put negative emotions in, then we're putting more toxins into our body. And so it becomes you can decide how sick you wanna be. It is a bold statement, and it is a statement that I think we all need to start embodying. It's
Yeah.
not just the doctor that can fix us, we have to
Mhm.
fix us. And, um, that's it all goes together, and I found that over time that it's actually very empowering. It's very, very empowering to know that you can do what you need to do to take care of you, and you're not reliant on something else. You're not reliant on, "Oh, my mom and dad had heart disease, or my mom had cancer, breast cancer." That's not a given that that's gonna happen to
Yeah.
you.
So fix yourself. That is in a nutshell what you have conveyed. Amazing.
Yeah,
And also, Rebecca, many people feel powerless in the face of chronic illness, right? So, how do responsibility, identity, and purpose come into play in healing?
yeah. Well, like I said, lifestyle is the key. And how we can easily do that is to create habits that support our lifestyle. And you're either, like I said, you're either helping your body to stay inflamed, or you're helping it to heal. And that first decision is, I think, that we need to make is take responsibility for us.
Hmm.
It's like I said, it's not up to the doctor to fix us. And we've been kind of programmed into that. And I love research. I love medical research. I think it's just been amazing how far we've come just in the last, 50 to 60 years, and even in the last 10 to 20 years, and even in the last 5 years of the epigenetics. And it just compounds on itself. And I love the fact that we're learning so much about the body. But it really does
Hmm.
come down to medications are not long-term solutions. And so you need to take responsibility in what you're doing, and what you can do to, um, get to the root causes, and get to the root of your symptoms that you're having, whether that's foods, whether that's emotions, whether that's toxins, whether that's, just not living the life you want, living in your, authenticity. And you need to address those root causes. There's a wealth of information out there, and I just think that it's, amazing the things that, like I said, have come down the pipe. And I almost think right now there's no excuse. When I was diagnosed 35 years ago, my disease, Crohn's disease, was
Hmm.
very unknown, and there was
Hmm.
so little information, and there was so much, so much of, I don't know. We don't know what causes this. We don't know. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and I'd go to the library. There was no internet. So I'd go to the library and look up things, and I'd talk to other doctors and other people that really had absolutely just as much information as I had. It was just very unknown. And I think that was part of the success that I had, is because I didn't start with anything. They didn't tell me, "Oh, you had this medication that you can just take care of things." Or it'll fix everything. I didn't have that luxury of doing that, so I had to start figuring out what my symptoms were and how I could reduce those, and so that was part of the responsibility. Um, the second part, I think, is a purpose. You have to have a purpose. Um, Nothing sticks with you unless you've got a purpose and have something to hold you accountable for what you're doing. So we have our responsibility. We can make a decision. We can make 100 decisions every day, but those decisions, you're going to take the easy way out. You're going to take the decision of least resistance if you have a choice, and to not take that that decision of least resistance. You need a purpose, and you need something to hold you accountable. Whether it's your kids, your parents, your success, your getting through a goal that you want to get to. Whatever your purpose is, to hold you accountable is important. Um, the next thing I think I would do, um, actually, I like to talk about this. It's identity. You have to become that person that wants to do the research. You have to become that person that really wants to help yourself. You have to become
Mhm.
that healthy person. It's going to take a lot of, like I said, decisions that aren't always the easy decisions. It's going to take a long time. This is not an easy overnight fix. It becomes a lifestyle. And so to become that person that you want to be, that in that healthy lifestyle, you have to create that identity. You have to create that authenticity, that agency around that person. And it's like, and in that, it makes it easier for you to say, "No, I don't do that," or "I don't eat those kind of foods," or "I only drink filtered water," or I do these things." It's easier to make those decisions in the long run when you become that person that has that healthy identity. So, and, it's a little bit of outside the norm, and you have to, have something to hang on to. And so all 3 of them together, you've made this decision, you've taken responsibility for yourself, you have created an identity around what you want to be. It's a goal, it's a path forward, it's that destination that you wanna be. And then, of course, your purpose. You have to have a why. "Why am I doing this? I'm just not living life. I'm doing it for a
Got
reason."
Mhm. Got it. And also you call it the hawk's eye perspective, right? So how can someone begin to recognize the habits that might be fueling their disease?
Yeah. This is kind of an analogy I came up with when I was writing, and I really like it. I watch hawks and eagles and birds of prey and, even seagulls, any kind of a bird that floats around looking for their prey. And so they circle the sky, and then they swoop down with really precise accuracy. They can be, just floating around, it seems like, for, several minutes, a half an hour even. And then all of a sudden they swoop down really, really uh, tight down, just with preciseness to catch their prey. And I see that as kind of where we need to start. We need to start looking at our whole life. Life is big, and everything that we do together, with other people and for ourselves and work and kids and, eating and washing the clothes and everything together. It's all big, it's a big thing. And we spend a lot of time doing life, and it's a lot of scattered moments. Like I said, decisions that we make every day, emotions, everything's interwoven. And so I like to think about it. If we start there, if we start with looking at our whole life, of the moment to moment things that we have every minute of our day. And then we can take time after seeing that big picture, we can kind of swoop down on the individual things that are causing us the most pain. And so that's one of my techniques that we look at, to get started with what we need to change in our life. I mean, it's very hard to say, "Oh, now I've caught a disease and I need to look at the root causes." But what are those root causes? Where do they come from? What are we talking about? And so if we can look at everything with a big hawk's eye perspective from way up in the sky, then we can start swooping down on those individual pieces that are really causing us pain and issues. Um, that it could be that we have people in our lives, and maybe it's our job. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
income level that we're trying to get to that's causing us our stress. So, say you love your job duties, but the coworker situation is causing you stress. That same job might have a great boss, but you don't like the commute or the place that you're living. And so you have all these different pieces that might be playing into this big overall picture of oh my gosh, I hate my job. I hate going to work every morning. And that's the pain is going to work every morning. But there's the different pieces that may be involved in that. So when you start breaking down that situation, you can start taking responsible decisions of how to create a new lifestyle around that, or what to get rid of, or what to keep. And so the solution might be to ask for a raise. That helps with the income piece of it. And that might supply you with an ability to move closer, to move to a different neighborhood. And then maybe because you're living, closer and that commute is less stressful, then that emotional health actually gives you an opportunity to have more patience with your coworkers. So one thing in that big picture that you swoop down on actually could make a whole different change in your lifestyle. So,
Mhm. Yeah, got it. Also, Rebecca, can you talk about a turning point where you choose to see yourself not as a patient, but as a powerful healer of your own life?
ah, hmm. I think there was a lot of pieces. And there was a lot of instances. Um,
Mhm.
I think the very first one that I found was listening to intuition, and I found a couple of infomercials that I was watching. I spent a lot of time laying on the couch, right, watching TV, and so came across an infomercial, and it was really literally minutes within asking, "Please help me, God, you've got to do something. Please help me. I can't lay here watching my young children watch TV," and that was all my life was about at the time. And there was a couple of infomercials about some, healthy supplements to buy, and, so that was kind of the first thing, and then I kinda realized, "Wow, if I ask, maybe things will happen here." And so, the second one was I was reading a book about, it was a Native American spirituality, and I didn't have a lot of time to read, but I was reading this book, and she was talking about a bringing down a light. And this was in 1990 and maybe 1992, somewhere in that time frame. Things that weren't real well known now that are now. But she was talking about bringing down a light and actually healing your body and making that light touch the piece that was sick. Whether it was your elbow, your gut, your ankle, it didn't matter, and that you could actually bring that light down in, ask for healing, ask for love, and there was a whole piece of it. And so I tried that, and it worked. And there was a peace that came over me and a calmness that came over me that was just absolutely amazing. And from that day on, I figured out that I really could make a difference. I could make a difference in just asking for help from the universe for myself. And I realized what I was doing at the time was actually listening to my body. I was actually listening to me. I was actually listening to my soul and the pieces that I needed to do, and so that was my turning point that, um yeah, from there on, I would stop and, I would get off course, and you'd be busy, busy, busy and doing things, and all of a sudden you'd wake up and going, "Oh, this isn't good today." And so,
Mhm.
you have to stop, and, "Okay,
Yeah.
what's the problem? What have I been doing? Where in my
Mhm.
lifestyle did I take a wrong path?" And
Yeah, got it.
that's what got me
And
started.
yeah, so let's double click on the lifestyle practices. Okay.
Okay.
So talk to me about simple lifestyle practices you follow daily that help you reduce inflammation and restore balance.
Yeah. Um I think the most important that's really underrated, and we can talk about all kinds of things, but I think rest and sleep. And I think you have to give yourself permission to really rest in this life, in our world today. Productivity is very out there. It's very, in my case, and in my opinion, overrated. But give yourself permission to rest. I go to bed about every night about between 9 and 10 o'clock. I can stay up later, but I tend to, when I stay up later, just want to be entertained. So I'll stay on the screens, I'll watch a movie, things like that. And so I make myself, everything stops about 9 o'clock and I go to bed. And that way I get sleep. There's a natural rhythm as when the sun goes down, you go to sleep. And if you follow that natural rhythm, it helps a lot. Um, Secondly, I watch my diet. The GMO products that we have here in America, the fast foods, um, the uh, I limit alcohol. I try to eat fresh, organic foods, um, more fresh than not. Very few packaged, manufactured foods. Anything that I see as manufactured, it's not that I won't eat it, but I limit it. And so you don't have to change your life to where you feel like you're struggling or you don't get anything, but limit it. Make sure you make it things
Yeah.
with a decision. Um, right now, I'm really interested in the endocrine and the hormone disruptors that they're finding in water and in the plastics and EBFs and all of that. And so I try to really stay away from tap water and plastic, things like that. And I move my body. I'm not a gym rat. I don't like going 2 hours to the gym and doing that kind of exercise, but I call it the exercise of life. And so everything you do, and you can get up away from the computer, get up off your chair, spend every, 10 minutes every hour or two just moving your body, raising your arms and whatever you need to do, run in place, take a walk outside, go hug a tree, things like that. That's all movement. And so I do a lot of routine movement all through the day.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
let's see, lastly, probably the biggest thing I do is I do things I like. Very few of us go through a day where most of the things that we do in the day are things that we like to do. And so I try every morning to set my intentions for the day and include at least 5 or 6 things every day that I really like to do, whether it's, what, I really want to read that chapter in that book. Sometimes it's work related. I really want to get this chapter written. I want to get this post made. But those are things I like to do, and I like to talk to people. I like to go out and, visit, or talk on the phone, and I'm gonna make, a specific, um, uh, a reason. Going to have to be a reason. It's a decision I want to talk to this person today, and so I do things I
Mhm.
like, and
Yeah.
I think that's important. So those are my kind of basics every day that I
Mhm.
I I tend to stick to. Um
Yeah. Got it. I think those are simple changes yet have a maximum impact, right? So wonderful.
Mhm.
Thanks for sharing that. And also, you mentioned about the importance of listening to the body, right? So, what are some signs people often ignore that their body is crying out for help?
Oh, some things can be so simple and some things are a little bit harder, I think. The first number one thing is pain. We've come so accustomed to having things be wrong in our body that it's like, "Oh, I can take an aspirin and take care of this pain," or, "I've lived with headaches for my whole life." Well, that's not normal. I don't live with headaches all my life. Should you live with headaches all your life? And um, so pain, I mean, is number one. If you have any kind of pain, pay attention to it and figure out why or what's going on with that. Um, Not being able to digest foods. It can be as simple as, yeah, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, in fact, and he was saying, "Well, I don't have any digestive issues." And I said, "Really, you've never had heartburn or you've never had diarrhea or, these kind of things that we've all had, they're not comfortable to talk about, but, we've all had it." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I do." And I was like, "Then you have some digestive issues. Somewhere down the line, you have a digestive issue." And, so I think that's one of the things that we need to realize. Your mental state, having, like, a cloudy brain or brain fog or just feeling old. Sometimes I think it's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't remember anything today. I could remember things yesterday. What's going on?" So your focus, your emotions have a direct relationship with your body's health, and that's coming out. There's a lot of information out about that too, that you can regulate your emotions much better when you're healthy. So if you find yourself being really dysregulated in your emotions, whether you're sad or you're anger or you flip back and forth a lot, or all of a sudden you're up on cloud nine, everything's happy, and then you're back down again, it becomes you got to figure out what's going on with that, and you regulate your emotions again. And then, you know, I think that sometimes you just have a nagging feeling that something's not right. You can take a walk and be a little more out of breath than you think you should be, or you can um, be playing with the kids, or taking, just kind of doing a quick getting up off of the floor sometimes. I was like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Well, something's wrong, whether it's the inflammation in your joints and your arthritis, or the muscles aren't working quite right, or you don't have the energy that you used to have, or just the freedom of the movement. Sometimes you just think something's wrong, and you just have to pay attention to that. That's and I think
Yeah.
everybody has that. We just don't pay attention.
hmm Yeah, I think I can relate to some of the stories around me. One of my friends has faced a heart attack, and he mentioned that he has ignored the chest pain, okay, which has been occurring for last few days and all. So I think if there is pain in the body, I think we should not dare to ignore it, right? That's the summary.
Mhm,
Great, and thanks for sharing that. And Rebecca, you have faced both Crohn's as well as breast cancer,
mhm.
and it is not that easy, right, to cope up, come back, and you started educating people in terms of how to deal with chronic illnesses, and also which is really inspiring.
Mhm.
So talk to us about the role of mindset and spirituality. Like, did it help in terms of coping and overcoming?
Yeah, mindset is important. It goes back to your identity and what you wanna believe in. Um, and, I had a girlfriend diagnosed with breast cancer about the same time I did, and hers was a little bit farther stage along than mine was, but we were gonna work this together. And I said, "We can do this. We can beat this." And she just did not have the mindset to do that. She did not have the belief that she could do that, and she basically said, "No, this is what I have, and this is where I'm at." And I don't think she was ever okay with that, but that's what she believed. She says, "I'm gonna do all the treatments, I'm going to do all of the everything the doctor says, because I'm gonna be able to be fixed." And but I don't think she actually believed that, and she died within 3 or 4 months, and it was very sad. And so that kind of at that time, I kinda looked at, "Okay, what was different? What did I do different? Why do I think differently?" And part of it was I refused to believe, after dealing with the Crohn's disease and managing my Crohn's disease for 25 years, that I couldn't do that the same with the cancer. And so I was very adamant about, okay, I need to start with that hawk's eye view. What did I do wrong? What's going on here? What are the root causes of cancer? Cancer is mostly emotional, believe it or not. And so where was I at? What was I doing? I was in a different relationship. I had had a divorce. I had, you know, different things. I had let a lot of manufactured foods creep back into my house because I had my Crohn's so under control. It's like, I can have crackers. I can have, a lot of manufactured foods again. And so with that view, I was able to get rid of the things that I needed to get rid of. And that empowered me to believe that things could change differently. I did some of the protocol for cancer, some not. I refused some. And I said, "No, I'm gonna try this." But I think it goes back to too, having that, thinking a disease is a death sentence. Cancer especially, you get diagnosed with cancer and you just kind of, "Oh, I'm dead." This is not something that, I anybody ever overcomes, and that's not true. You can overcome it. And I think you have to start out very quickly with a belief in that. You have to overcome that fear. And that's where the spirituality comes in, that there is a there's a bigger reason. If you can hold on to that spiritual reason of why you're here, what you want to change, what you want to do, how you want to live your life, what's your purpose? That's where your spirituality comes in, and you can hold on to that, to where it just helps fill you up, and that you can be all of you. You can become that authentic, identified you as a healthy person. So
Yeah, got it. And this has been powerful, incredible, and insightful conversation so far. And it's time for us to add some excitement and some more spice to the episode. So if you're ready, let's kick off the second rapid fire round.
okay, let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, here comes my first bullet. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Ah, that's an easy one. You can decide how sick you want to be.
You can decide how sick you want to be. It's awesome. And describe yourself in just one word.
Ah, I think I'm a creator.
Creator. Superb.
Creator.
And what is one wellness myth that drives you crazy?
Ah, the doctor always knows best.
Okay. Here comes the next one. Crohn's or cancer? Which taught you more about life?
Oh, the Crohn's disease. The Crohn's
Mm-hmm.
disease. Yeah. That was the beginning of figuring out I had to completely rewrite my life. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah. Got it. And the most bizarre healing advice someone gave you?
Ah, it goes back to, doctors. Probably the need for invasive routine testing, like colonoscopies, biopsies, things like that, that they need to see everything that's going on. And, I think that's just bizarre. I really do. So,
Okay. And one food you refuse to give up no matter what.
mm, um, bad for me or good for me? Good for me is aloe vera. I've been drinking fresh aloe vera juice for years and years, and that's
Mhm,
probably
mhm.
one I would never give up. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then describe your healing journey using just three words.
Hmm. Knowledge,
Hmm.
uh, lifestyle,
Hmm.
and loving myself.
Awesome. Spot on.
4
Okay.
words, sorry.
What is more okay, what is more powerful? Hope, habit, or faith?
Oh, habits, I think. Habits.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I somehow felt habit is more powerful as well. And here comes the last one for the second rapid fire round. What is one electronic gadget that you'd like to see or invent yourself?
Hmm. Electronic gadget. I'd really like to see, something that would read our energy,
Hmm.
in a very specific way where, whether we have gadgets that read our blood pressure, our heart rate, and things like that. I'd really like to see something that actually read our energy. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Energy meter kind of thing, right?
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, an energy meter.
Good one. Good one. And after that amazing second rapid fire round, let's flip back to the mainstream. So, Rebecca, what are the four everyday motivational forces that either heal or harm us? And can you walk us through how to use them consciously?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I think the first one is our perception of success. And I think that that's a motivational force that everybody needs to be successful. We have, um, expectations of that within ourselves and other people. And so that perception of success, you really need to own that and do it for you and describe that. You need to be able to understand what success is to you and not something that somebody else is deciding what success is. Because if you don't, that becomes that disconnect within yourself. And when you're striving for something that isn't part of your values or where you're just trying to belong in somebody else's world and live up to somebody else's expectations, um, you're never going to have that balance within yourself that you need to have to stay healthy. The second one I would say is kind of goes along with that is to authentically show up. Authenticity within yourself. Know who you are. Know what your values are. That's not something that's taught in school. It's just kind of perceived or expected that you grow up with values that are of your parents or the people around you. And I don't think we all fit into that. You kind of considered a troublemaker if you don't follow the values of the school system or the values of your cultural heritage. And so you really need to know your own values and be comfortable in your own skin. And this all this also goes along to creating those positive emotions within you, keeping that balance of where you need to be. And then along with that, I think that you should know what your desires are. Once you figure out what you shouldn't be or what you don't need to be, figure out what you want and figure out who you are. What kind of desires do you want in your life? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? What kind of person do you want to be? And what do you really desire? What are your goals? And
Mhm.
separate those out. And I think this is something that's really missing in teaching our kids today. And so we've grown, and I've grown up and I'm 65 now, but I've grown up and my kids have grown up and they've had to figure this out along the way. And I just don't think I think that's wrong. I think we should be able to have something very concrete to hold on to very early on. And I think the last one I would say is fear. And that one can really help or hurt you. I think fear is a strong, strong motivator and probably the most and you talk about it's either fear or love. There's either fear or love. You're living in that authenticity and that agency. I think fear is possibly stronger than love, just because it's a boundary that it either has you set a boundary or it makes you move towards safety. It's a very real example. Being diagnosed with everything, the first reaction you have is fear. It doesn't matter what you're diagnosed with, it's fear. You could actually have a go into the doctor and find out you're pregnant, and quite literally, the first emotion you have is fear. It may quickly be replaced with love and excitement and all that, but the first emotion you fear anything anywhere is fear. And so fear is something that either paralyzes you or it moves you forward. It's just an as is. And so I
Yeah.
think those are the four that I would say that are more
Mhm.
motivational than anything. So
Yeah. Excellent. I love the conversation. It is quite insightful, and I'm sure it is going to benefit the community at large, especially those who are suffering from chronic illnesses. So, guys, we have Rebecca standing tall in front of us, who has successfully overcome Crohn's and also breast cancer. So, we need to learn a lot from her. And Rebecca, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. And how is your experience being hosted on the Guiding Voice podcast?
oh, thank you so much. This was great. Your questions are so insightful, and yeah, was able to express a lot of what I think my passion is, and hopefully help
Mhm.
somebody else. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, thank you once again for joining us today and looking forward to many more conversations. And I wish you all the best on your book launch. And I'm sure it will be Amazon bestseller. So, wish you
thank
loads of
you.
success and keep inspiring us.
Absolutely, I appreciate
All
it.
right. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so friends, that was our episode with Rebecca Renck. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. If you have enjoyed the conversation and found the episode useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues or family members who would also like TGV, the guiding voice. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. Now it's time to hop into the trivia segment. Having had amazing conversation with Rebecca on cancer, Crohn's disease, and dealing with chronic illnesses, I thought of presenting you with a few lesser known facts about cancer. The first fact is that cancer can hijack wound healing mechanisms. Tumors often grow by mimicking the body's natural wound healing processes, and they release signals that attract blood vessels. So the process is called as angiogenesis, which reduces immune response and promotes cell growth, just like your body does after an injury. But cancer keeps this healing loop going endlessly for its benefit. And
Mm.
second deadly fact is that some tumors can produce their own hormones. Small cell lung cancer or adrenal tumors can start producing hormones that aren't normally made by these tissues. And this can lead to strange symptoms like sudden weight gain, mood swings, or high BP, which stands for blood pressure, confusing doctors and also delaying diagnosis. Third fact is that your microbiome may influence cancer risk and treatment response. Gut bacteria aren't just for digestion. New research shows they can affect your immune system's ability to detect and fight cancer. In fact, people with a more diverse gut microbiome
Mhm.
often respond better to immunotherapy, a cutting edge cancer treatment.
Mhm.
So, these are the facts I wanted to talk to you about cancer. But, folks, if you know any other lesser known facts about cancer, do let me know. And not only that, if you know any person who has successfully dealt with chronic illnesses like cancer or Crohn's disease or something, do let me know about their story. And I would love to feature them on the Guiding Voice podcast in future. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember the best is yet to come. So goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care. Love you all. Bye bye.